Hey everybody, welcome back to our Eucharistic Congress coverage. It's Drew the Catholic, and today I'm joined by Dr. Ben Akers with the Augustine Institute. You're the Chief Mission Officer, recently rebranded from Chief Content Officer.
That's right. So it was Chief Content Officer, so I was in charge of making sure the things that we produce, the video programs that we produce, the Word of Life curriculum, the K-8 curriculum we have, the Amen app, make sure that those are, on brand, if you will, aligned with the teachings of the church, but also the way that we want to present it. And I kept joking that it was a Chief Content Officer, and so Tim Gray, the president, just changed it to Chief Mission Officer, so he wants me to get to work. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I personally have benefited from a lot of the stuff you guys did with Formed and a lot of the digital content you've made, and I think it's really important, so it's probably a good place to start. Just tell us, what was the inspiration behind putting something together like Formed, sort of like the Catholic Netflix?
Yeah. So Formed was actually, we were before Paramount Plus, before Disney Plus. Tim Gray had had the vision of, we had all this great content. So we're professors. We started as a Catholic graduate school. So we're used to libraries. We're used to bookshelves. And the library's a great place to go and get things that you need and you to know where they are. And so he had the vision of, we should put all the content in a place where people can go and find it. And so that's why we created Formed. We did a proprietary platform because there weren't platforms that you could rent and use. And so we did that with Formed. And it's been a great success. Parishes are very grateful for it because they know that they can trust everything. The importance for us is the curation of the content to make sure it's faithful to the church's teaching. There's a certain level of video quality as well. A certain way of telling the story of what the church teaches. And so they know that if a parish buys Formed for their parishioners, that it's going to have good quality content. Not only movies like the Catholic Netflix, but also video programs that teach the faith.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff there for catechesis and just learning the faith. There's good kids content on there as well. I mean, that's what we use it for. We have our daughter watch stuff on there. And then personally, I mean, I've gone through Symbolon with people coming into the church. It's kind of a funny thing. I mean, I guess 30 years ago, professors probably wouldn't have seen themselves as having to make the jump to content creators, but that's sort of what you guys have done as the space has evolved. And so I think that's important, right? Like as the world evolves, there's these new tools to reach people, and we have to use them as Catholics. What's been your guys' approach to, digital evangelization as that's come about?
Great question. So one of the things that inspired us is John Paul II's teaching on the new evangelization, where he says it needs to be new in ardor, methods, and expression. So ardor, the zeal, the charity, expression. So you say true things. You don't change what the church teaches, but you can say them in a new, dynamic way. But really the method, and one of the great methods is this digital media space to teach. And so one of the things that we noticed was we had students that came to us to Denver, Colorado, where we had our graduate school, and they said, I love my teaching. I would love to have my other people that back in my parish, I'm a youth minister, or I teach RCIA, I welcome people into the church. I would love to have them have your kind of teaching in my parish. But you guys can't travel to all the parishes. You can't, but I want to bring you somehow, and that's what actually kind of led us to creating video programs for parishes.
Yeah, I mean, they're really good. They're really well done too. I think that's the first thing I noticed. So I'm a Protestant convert, so in that world, there's a lot of notoriety for making Christian movies that are really bad and really cheesy.
Right.
And I was really impressed, coming into the Catholic Church. There's all this amazing content that's really well produced and deep. And my undergraduate studies was biblical theology, and a lot of the stuff I was learning, like in my program, was accessible in something like Symbolon to the average parishioner, which is pretty amazing. I mean, that's going to turn the tides in a big way, I think.
Yeah, and I want to tell your viewers and you one of the things that we're excited about launching here at the National Eucharistic Congress is the new Symbolon. So Symbolon, which is just the Greek. This is what the problem when you have like Catholic graduate school professors name things is you give them these like obscure Greek titles, and we have Lectio in Latin for our Bible study programs. But Symbolon is just the Greek word for it was a used to image of bringing a symbol. What Symbolon was a seal that you would give one bearer, you'd break in half, you give one bearer the seal and the other to authenticate the message. And so that was a word that was used and an image that was used in the early church to describe the creed. So the creed is kind of the mark of the Catholic faith. And so 10 years ago, we made Symbolon. Every episode was hosted by Dr. Ted Sri, and it starts in Rome and ends in Rome. Because we really wanted to show, 10 years ago, the really grandeur of the church, that the church is universal. 10 years later, still great content of the Catholic faith, But what we did was we actually wanted to send the message home that sanctity is available here in the United States. And so every episode begins and ends with actually on-site teaching at sites that are here in the United States. So the North American Martyrs would be an example. Father Capon's parish as well, the missions in California. So we wanted to show that the faith is actually found in your parish as well. So that was a pivot that we made in this symbolon that we just released on Formed.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. I saw the trailer for it. It looks, same as the old one, really well produced, really beautiful cinematography and shots, but I think it'll add a new dynamism to it. So I'm excited to start using that personally.
Yeah. And that's what it's designed for. It's not only designed for people welcoming into the church when they are RCIA, they're discerning whether or not they want to be Catholic, but it's also for Catholics that want to grow more in depth and knowledge of their faith.
Yeah, it'll be cool to have the North American perspective too, because we've all seen hundreds of shots of Rome, especially as Catholic.
And they're always inspiring, right?
It's great.
And
it's
we do have a Rome shot and some Holy Land imagery as well, because
oh, that's good.
But it's because those are important, because that's where our faith is rooted. But to really say that faith is available and to be lived out in your local parish, you don't have to go on pilgrimage. It's always wonderful to go on pilgrimage, but our Lord has made Himself available in the Eucharist, in the Sacrament of Reconciliation, in your parish community. That's the message that you're going to get from this symbolon.
That's great. Going in a different direction, one of the things I've appreciated about the Augustine Institute from afar, I haven't done any programs there or anything, but it seems like all of your programs, whether it's a master's degree or whether it's content that you've created, is focused on equipping, your average Catholic or your above average Catholic who's going to have, maybe an official position in the church or work for the church to be effective in the new evangelization, which I think is a shift from, at least from what I hear, 30 or 40 years ago. It seems like the faith maybe wasn't passed on or wasn't talked about in a way that people really grasped. Father Mike Schmitz was saying yesterday in the press release that we kind of assumed that Catholic culture would just naturally pass it on, and we might have assumed incorrectly. Now it seems like we're correcting, and there's this torch being passed in this really profound way, and it's being accessible to everybody. And even at this event, that seems to be kind of the thing is, don't just take the information and sit on it, activate, run. So for you guys, how do you balance that focus on, like, we're creating good content, we're teaching people things, but at the same time, we always want them to be activated by it, to be on mission?
Yeah, one of our inspirational verses in Scripture in the New Testament would be 2 Timothy 2:2, which, find those who can teach others. So teach the teachers who can go and teach others. And so that's one of the things that we do with our graduate school programs is we really want to, we have a new master's degree program, Master's in Catholic Education. We're going to equip Catholic school teachers. But we're also equipping people that work in not only the Catholic schools, but Catholic parishes and other Catholic apostolates. And people just want to grow in knowledge of their faith. And so to teach in such a way that they're receiving the knowledge, so it forms their intellect, but also in such a way that it's activates their heart to go and to share that mission. So this is a phrase that the church has been using recently, evangelizing catechesis. So it's teaching the faith in such a way that's infused with the gospel, and we need to always do that. Now, when we lived in a culturally Catholic society, you could say, more is caught than taught. So you would just, we make the sign of the cross, we say our prayers before meals, and you kind of live this cultural Catholic. But we're living in a time now where we actually really have to, and every age too, has to choose to say, I want to live the faith. And there's no guarantee that the faith is going to be handed on to the next generation. Jesus' mandate to go and make disciples is for each and every single generation to go and make disciples. The way that the church used to make disciples, the primary way that church still makes disciples is you have babies, right? You go and make more of you.
Absolutely.
And then you form them and make them disciples of Jesus Christ. But we also make disciples through evangelization and through formation and catechesis. So that's one of the things that really does the urgency that we have is that every Catholic apostolate and every Catholic should have, every baptized Catholic is, what am I doing to share this great gift that I've given with others? One of the parables that kind of haunts us as an apostolate, and in a good way, right, is the words of Jesus of, I gave you this many talents. What have you done with those talents? Right? We have 1, 3, 5, 15, whatever talents that we've been given. We want to be able to return that investment that the Lord has, the great gift the Lord has given as an investment for the future.
That's amazing. It's kind of an amazing time to be a Catholic in that I feel like there's been sort of a renaissance of biblical theology, but also the methods we're using to employ them, which we've been talking about. And I think back to the first century, the church was instituted at a time that was really well chosen because we had Roman roads and everyone was speaking a common language. And it seems like with the internet, we almost have a new Roman road that we're making use of, and it's shifted from a more institutional Christendom to this apostolic sort of movement, which I think is really encouraging. What are your thoughts on how, people that are creating content, whether it's at your level at the Augustine Institute or it's just a little tiny YouTube podcast, how can we steward that well and make sure we're being effective and not succumb to the spirit of the age and the dangers of the internet and technology?
That's a great question. That is the question too. I would encourage you and others that are creating content to really reflect on Romans chapter 12 verse 2, where do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. The way that both of the verbs are a passive, present, imperative. So it's something that's happening to you. It's an imperative. You're either being conformed to this world or being transformed. And you want to be transformed according to the renewal of your mind, so that as Catholics, when we're baptized, we actually see the world differently. The theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity allow us to see the world differently, allow us to navigate in the world differently, to love and to give witnesses of hope to the world. So I say those creating Catholic content, it's easy to look for the click to get people to watch your video. The challenge is, and that's not a bad thing, I'm not putting that down, is to get the click without substance. That you want to always be able to provide substance, not just click for the sake of click, but they actually want something substantial behind what you're teaching. And you don't want to shy away from the teachings of the church, especially the difficult teachings of the church. Because one of the challenges is with short form video is that you don't always get to the cross. You always want to say the suffering, the difficult messages of the faith. And so that'd be a challenge and invitation. Is one of the things we try to balance is how do you have that kind of more longer form engaging teaching. One of the great secrets is to have beautiful cinematography, to have great shots. And that's just beauty is such an attractive force for people. But I think that would be some advice is always, don't shy away from the whole truth. When Jesus says at the Great Commission, the missionary mandate, go make disciples of all nations, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you, all that I taught. So we don't want to forget that all part of the message.
That's good. I also appreciate the plug for beautiful cinematography in an age when people are doing vertical videos with their iPhones, which is totally good. Yeah. And I mean, that there's a place for that, but I don't think we're ever going to totally get past having things well lit and well framed and looking good, because all of that communicates a message.
Yeah, and I think the vertical shot, as you mentioned, I in seeing that, I think people really want they want that intimacy, right? I think that's what that invitation is, and what people really desire is that I want that close shot. I want to be with that person, and digital media allows us to connect with people in a way that we can't always, but to never shy away or to never run away from conversations like this, where we're sitting down, we're actually having a conversation in person. Video can't supplant that.
Right. Yeah, it can trick maybe like the primitive part of your brain into thinking that's happening, but you don't actually have like a relationship with someone through a screen. That's something that's been interesting at the Congress, actually, because you run into people that you might see online, and then there's all these other Catholics here. I mean, there's 50,000 of us adoring our Lord in the Eucharist, which just feels like a taste of heaven. And I was thinking about that this is real communion. Like, this is the actual embodiment of the communion we have with each other. And that's not the same as, feeling connected because we're watching content online. What do you think we need to do as we're using this, digital front of evangelization to make sure that we still have an incarnational approach to actually connecting with people in the body of Christ?
No, great question. I'd say, just thinking about that's huge. So we need to create digital content. Yeah, absolutely. We need to have good, beautiful digital content that communicates the faith. But to know that that's not everything. I think one of the things that watching a video together with family, what we noticed during COVID, we got a lot of responses of we already had everything kind of ready to go during COVID, so we were able to make a lot of videos with our professors coming in and conversations, and people were very grateful. And what it did was it put families together that not necessarily would watch the same thing, but everyone's watching lots of things, and so like, okay, so mom and dad could say, let's watch this. And one of the videos that was very popular during COVID was The Search, hosted by Chris Stefanik, that we produced, which is a charismatic, the core tenets of the gospel, presentation of faith. And parents sat down with their kids and watched it. And what it did was, sitting on the same couch, you're watching the same material, was that you were in a position of learning too. And then they could turn and have the conversation about it. So that's a great way to use digital media and content as an evangelization tool, is to sit together. You kind of levels the playing field. We're all learning from this video series. Now turn and talk to your neighbor, talk to your family member about what you just learned.
That's really great. Yeah, no, I like that. It's really helpful too, because then, whoever's facilitating it, that's what you are, as your facilitator. You're not like leading a discussion. You don't have to prepare a lecture.
That's right.
And someone who doesn't feel like maybe they're a professor of biblical theology can lead a group like that and bring people into the church. And then at the same time, everyone's average knowledge level of the faith is increasing. So I think in like 30 or 40 years, we're going to look back on this and go, wow, it's amazing how much the average Catholic knows, which is going to be a stark contrast to what people might have had in their experience before. As we're here at the Eucharistic Congress, you guys have been really involved in this event. I believe you guys are a big sponsor at the event.
You have founding partners.
You have the coolest booth.
Oh, thank you.
It's massive. It's amazing.
It is really cool. It's like half a basketball court.
Yeah. Wow.
Huge.
Is it really that big? Yeah. It's awesome. And there's all the little subsections for all the stuff you guys do. It seems like even before there was this call for Eucharistic revival, this was a focus for you guys, obviously, with the Present series. Yes. What's it been like to see all this come together and to be a partner in it?
It's incredible. So about 3 years ago, I was invited to represent the Augustine Institute on the executive committee of the National Eucharistic Congress. So to plan those years leading up to the Congress, so the diocesan, the parish, the next year's the missionary year. So it's been beautiful to see this, and just seeing some of my fellow members, our Sunday visitor represented, others, and to talk and say, we had no idea. It's the original kind of where the room where it happened, this conversation, and now to see it is just a beautiful gift that I'm grateful to the Lord to be part of and to see the witness of this. And when Bishop Cousins called Tim Gray, our president, and told him about this, and very quickly raised the hand and say, we want to be part of this, because every age in the church's history that returns to the Lord will experience renewal. Every age will experience a revival. And in particular, for the Eucharistic revival, we were very supportive of that. We had already made the Presence series, our video program for parents on the Eucharist. And we were able to partner with the United States Bishops Conference and to create Jesus and the Eucharist, a new study, which combined episodes of the Search, so the charismatic presentation of the gospel, to why does it matter, how does God reveal himself, and who is Jesus, and then move into the Presence episodes along with testimonies and witnesses. And that's been beautiful to see how many people have just clicked on that and how many hours have been watched of that video program.
That's awesome. One thing I keep thinking about, like, we've been talking about our experiences with the team, and it's been really impactful, and I think a lot of people are having just personal revival. At least that's what we've been experiencing. And a big question lingering for me is, how do I take this home? We talked about that last night at the session as well. So what are your thoughts for the person who's here, or maybe the person who's even just ingesting content online and sort of catching this flame? How do we make sure it leaves here and stays with us and is brought back to our communities?
Yeah, that's absolutely important to me. One of the things, the images that we use, in teaching about the Holy Land is that you can't just there's the there's the Sea of Galilee in the north that's connected with the River Jordan, the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea is at least twice as big as the Sea of Galilee, but the Dead Sea is dead because the saline content is so big because it doesn't have an outlet. Well, the Sea of Galilee has all those incredible stories of Jesus and the multiplication of the fish and the calming of the storms, and it's a place of life because there's an outlet. It has a way to give the excess water that it has, while the Dead Sea just receives. And so the Christian life is reception, but also giving as well. So you can't just receive. It's good to watch content. It's good to engage content, but that is meant to move towards action, move towards charity, because charity is not love of God and love of neighbor. And the way that we love our neighbor is to share the faith and to live the faith with them. And so I'd say pick one thing. Pick one simple thing. Maybe you've never done Eucharistic adoration before, and that was something you've been introduced to. Maybe it was a prayer that some speaker introduced you to. Pick one thing and start doing that thing. I think one of the great things about these festivals is that you just meet people from all over the place. And so I'd say that one of the habits that my pastor back in Denver, Colorado has introduced us to is, after Mass, we always have coffee and donuts. That's always a good thing, right? Yeah, coffee and donuts after Mass. But to meet one person that you've never met before as a parishioner. I'd say that's a very simple thing. It's something very practical. Always pick very practical things, because then that gives you a better chance of actually implementing them and making them a habit.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. That's important too. That's something our parish is sort of going through, personal renewal, and our pastor's leading us in that. And that's been a big thing, especially across generational gaps. Is like there's all these people walking in and out that we see and we wave to, but we don't know. So like making the decision to know them and to live with them.
And one of the things that I think too is that I remember Archbishop Aquila in the Archdiocese of Denver had recommended. He said, pick a parish, pick a mass, pick a pew that you kind of always go to, and introduce yourself to the people around you, because we're just creatures of habit. And so, but always pick the 8:30 mass if you can, and then always sit in the same kind of place at church, because you're going to be starting to sit around the same kind of people too, and that's just a way to start to meet people in these, especially these big parishes that we have.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We are all fortunate because there's only one parish in our town.
Okay,
so for better or worse, you kind of have to make the best of it and be along for the ride, which is it's good. It's been a good practice because we can't be like, oh, we'll parish hop or whatever. Moving in a different direction, you guys have a pretty big move you're going through right now.
Yeah.
You're leaving Denver, which I'm sad about because I wasn't that far away, and now now it feels very far away. But tell us about what's going on there and what's on the horizon with all that.
Yeah, so God has blessed us with a brand new campus just north of St. Louis in Florissant, St. Louis, Missouri, and in Florissant, Missouri. It was a former Boeing leadership center. So it was Boeing trained its executives. It trains its leadership. It has 286 acres, 200 rooms for conferences and events. And so we're going to use it as the new home of the Augustine Institute. Generous donors were able to help us buy it in a very short amount of time. 9 months ago, we didn't even know this existed.
Oh, wow.
And now we're moving the professors out this summer. Will be a staged move of bringing the whole apostolate out over the next year or so. And it's a gift from the Lord, and we want to use this gift for the church. St. Louis is centrally located in the United States, so it's about a 9-hour drive from 17 million Catholics. We want to be a center of the new evangelization. So it's the first and foremost the home of the graduate school. So our first-year students are going to be very new students on there. Our second-year students are moving out from Colorado to live there. The beautiful thing is it has a cafeteria, it has a gym. We're going to make a temporary chapel on the campus until we can build a beautiful chapel. Surprisingly, Boeing hadn't built a Catholic chapel on the campus. That's the only thing. That's the only thing it's missing. We have a place for students for the library. We have a place to grow for, invite our students to come for intensive weeks, and also just introduce people to retreats and conferences. So we're going to have retreats for married couples. We're going to have retreats for priests on the campus as well. It's very meditative. It's right on the bluff of the Missouri River. It's got 5 miles of trail that go right down to the river. So it's going to be a place of prayer and contemplation and study that we're very excited about.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like a big upgrade for sure. Just all that space and all of that.
Yeah, we just had a little business building in the business park of Greenwood Village, which is beautiful. Is that right? Yeah, about 3 stories high. And now we have 286 acres, 300,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's something to grow into for sure. That's awesome. Yes. And I'm sure production space-wise, your production team's probably like, oh, this is great.
The production is excited because there's so many great shots. They also did not build a studio. So we have to figure out what to do with how to build a studio. So we have plans for that as well.
Cool. That's amazing. Yeah, I heard about the move and I was like, wow, that's a massive expansion, and that's going to be really amazing what that allows you guys to do. What do you guys have coming up on the horizon, content-wise or retreat-wise, that you want to tell people about? Yeah,
so first and foremost, the Symbolon. Check out our new Symbolon. It's 16 episodes. It used to be 24. 16 episodes that we've done. It's on Formed. We have incredible workbooks, really beautiful workbooks. We just finished this year our Word of Life curriculum, that in partnership with Ignatius Press. So it's a K-8 curriculum for parishes and for Catholic schools. So that's now ready to go. We're going to start looking into the high school curriculum. We're going to start doing some study on that. We also have coming out Lectio Confirmation. So Lectio is again, named by a graduate school professor. Lectio is just a Latin word for reading. It's the Lectio Divina, the sacred reading. And so it's a professor that teaches in an engaging way, and there are workbooks that accompany it. So we have a brand new one coming out by Dr. Brent Petrie on confirmation.
Awesome.
And so those are things to look for, along with a new series on the Holy Land as well.
Perfect. Well, I'll try to put links to all that in the description so people can check it out. And everyone, make sure you check all that stuff out if any of that applies to you, and check out what the Augustine Institute is doing. And Dr. Ben Akers, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for what you do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.